Alrighty, y'all, so today I'm going to be adding a new series or another series to the channel, which is something I've already done before, right? I've done it for both 2B and Red Hood, but I want to kind of do this for every single character now, right? It's basically going to be my final thoughts of a character after they release, after a period of time from when they released. It's not going to be me ranking them on a tier list. It's actually just going to be me telling you guys how I feel about the character, what I like about the character, what I dislike about the character, and then obviously the most important thing, what I would have changed about the character, and also if you should, you know, summon after I've tested them and stuff like that, because I never give you guys a should you summon after them. I just give you guys a should you summon before they even come out, right before the testing. So now that we've tested and stuff like that, I'm going to consider all this stuff and put it in towards this video, and I'm going to do this for every character that releases from this point on. And this also sparks the conversation in the comments, because I want you guys to also share your opinions down below, what you guys like, what you guys dislike, and what you guys would have changed about the character as well. So before we get into all that stuff, please remember to subscribe and like. I'm going to give you like 5 seconds right now. But your thing is still says subscribe. Press that button right now and like the video. Let's go. So Elegg, I do really like Elegg. I really do like her. I will still say, from what I said from when I first read her kit until now, it's still the same, which is she's an okay unit. I will definitely say I had a worse impression of her before when I read her kit and even my first testing of her than now after testing her with Dorothy and stuff like that. I do really like this character because she's buffing up Dorothy and stuff like that, but that is something that I also dislike. She kind of is only buffing up Dorothy, which is interesting because they made her purposely to buff up this character. It's kind of as clear as day that they made her just to buff up the Scarlet. They were not thinking about her buffing up Dorothy when they made this character, right? The whole thing about this Scarlet, especially, it's that like when you use a certain amount of normal attacks, she ends up just dealing a big percentage of distributed damage, right? This is the most recent character as well. You know, not most recent character, but this is a more recent character, right? So it makes sense that they were clearly trying to just, for this character, that's what Elegg was for, but in making it, they actually ended up buffing up this character, Dorothy, right? I think the distributed damage buff that she gives on her burst skill is really good for Dorothy's brand effect. Not even her brand effect, her burst skill, because her burst skill lowers the cooldown of the skill 2 by 18 seconds, making it a 2-second skill, right? And that also is of distributed damage. So either they were making her solely for Scarlet, or their plan was for Scarlet and Dorothy, which either way it's fine. But these are top two, not top 2 characters in the game, but these two are top 10 characters of the game. Right, these are some of the best characters in the game, and did they need a buff? Of course not. So that's one thing that I would say I dislike, because they kind of, I don't want to say they buffed up, like, it's not bad that they buffed up these characters, but I feel like there's other characters in the game that could use these buffs, right? It seems like they're not buffing up characters anymore, they're just releasing new characters to buff up old characters, if that makes sense, right? Tove and Leona went to go buff up the shotgun characters, but mainly Sugar. Now we have Elegg here buffing up, you know, Dorothy, right? It seems like they are making support characters to buff up other characters rather than just giving a character a direct buff, which is something I'm not really a fan of, because that kind of forces me to summon for the, well, doesn't force me, I'm a summon for the character regardless, but for some of you guys, if that kind of makes you feel like you have to summon for these characters, which you don't have to do, but right, like for example, if you summon for Tove and Leona and then they drop Privity, they made Tove and Leona for Privity, you're gonna feel forced to summon for Privity because you have Tove and Leona and their best use is with Privity, if that makes sense, right? So that's one thing I would say, not necessarily I dislike, I just think they could have went better about going. Overall, her as a character, I do like what she does against bosses. One thing I want to say I will take back is, I don't want to say I'll take it back, because I still stand on what I said, where I said projectiles are easy to break, but when I'm in like a boss stage with projectiles, I definitely feel this 46% continuously being added on, right? And I really felt that with the train, because on the train usually it takes me at least 2 or 3 hits to break those like rocket missiles that fly into you at the beginning. The moment I got into there with Elegg, they broke instantly. The moment I just brought my cursor to it, it broke instantly, which is good because that saves me more time to handle and do more damage on the train, right? I feel like if you're running Elegg with Dorothy on the train, you can get a very fast clear, right? Maybe even faster with the bunny girls and stuff like that, which is surprising to say because of the projectile thing, right? If you're running her, especially with Red Hood, you have Red Hood do the insane damage. Even Scarlet, Red Hood, Dorothy, Elegg, and then I don't know who your last burst 3 would be. Maybe another DPS like Moderni or something. You run that comp and you can get the train done quickly, right? Probably the faster team, but that team definitely feels very fast, right? I don't really like the damage. I will never really like this about these characters unless they are titled a support, but it's as clear as day that they're going to do big damage as a support like Summer and Nice. It seems like they keep making these burst 2 and burst 1, mainly the burst 2s. They keep making these burst 2 supporters do damage. Like they're making it that they have to do the damage, right? This second part of the first skill I feel like is a huge waste. I get it, it's based off distributed damage, and then her burst skill increased the distributed damage, so technically it's like it's 100% of final attack as distributed damage, if that makes sense, right? And then, well, I don't know if it's multiplicative or if it's adding or whatever. I need to actually go back and test that out. But I don't like how this burst 2 supporter is doing, like they made it that she does damage. What I do like is her as a character for boss supporting, right? I don't like her. Okay, I like her a lot that I actually would consider running her and Dorothy together for a boss rather than running Dorothy with the bunny girls or schoolgirls. Obviously that's just a personal thing for me and my affection towards the character, but I wouldn't recommend anybody to replace the schoolgirls or the bunny girls for this character, right? If you have one of the two or even both of them, Elegg should not be in the conversation realistically, right? I think that the buff she gives to Dorothy is great, but not that big where it's like, okay, now you are gonna neglect the entirety of the team just for this one character, if that makes sense, right? Unless I'm running, you know, Scarlet on the team as well, then I would consider running her over those characters as like, okay, I want to use her against this boss rather than the bunny girls because I feel like she's gonna do better for me there. That's probably if I'm running Dorothy and Scarlet, but at the same time I would want to get this skill to 10 10 10, or at least this final skill I would want to get it to level 10, right? I think I would want to increase this distributed damage all the way to level 10 so I can get more, and then I probably would feel like that. So like I said, I think the character is still an okay character till this day after testing and all that stuff. Do I recommend to summon? Of course not, right? The anniversary, the half anniversary is in 2 months, and you don't get many free-to-play currency as a free-to-play, right? You get up to 3 or 4 multis a month, which is not going to be enough for the, I mean, I guess they're going to give you a boatload for the half anniversary, right? So it might be enough, but still don't recommend it. If you have the bunny girls, if you have the schoolgirls, definitely don't recommend it. If you do not have them and you have Dorothy, would I recommend it? I would recommend getting her off the wish list still. I still would recommend getting her off the wish list. Bosses are not everything in this game, and if you still do, like, I don't feel like Dorothy is that crazy for mobs and stuff like that, even with her burst skill and stuff like that. I think she's okay there. I think she's good, but I don't think it's like, oh, I must run Dorothy for that. Like, you're mainly putting Dorothy on the team when it comes to bosses because that's where she really is going to handle them, right? So I don't know if it's that big of a deal where you need to get this character just for bosses, but in a general sense, probably not, right? I do think she's a good character. I think she's an okay character, right? Nothing changes there, but these are a few things that I like and dislike about her. What I would have changed is one thing here is that I'm finding out, like, again, she's only buffing up 2 characters. It says affects all allies, right? So it feels like a waste to the other characters on the team, which what I think they could have done, and maybe a lot of people might agree, maybe a lot of people might disagree. I mean, I don't think anybody would disagree because it would technically just be extra, right? You're either okay with this or you would be okay with the extra I'm about to provide. But I think what they should have done is affects all allies. The allies that have the distributed damage, it would increase by whatever percentage it is, right? So have the allies who actually have distributed damage increase their damage dealt, right? Their distributed damage dealt. But for the allies who do not have distributed damage, give them additional distributed damage, if that makes sense. So for example, Modernia doesn't have distributed damage. After Modernia uses her attacks, she would get maybe a lesser percent of the actual distributed damage for the allies who have it, but she would, you know, deal additional damage as distributed damage. So let's say my Modernia, you know, shot or whatever, and she did 200k, right? It would do an additional damage to all the enemies on the field equal to a certain percentage of whatever the additional damage is from Elegg. I think that would have been a good way to kind of include all the characters on your team, and even that would make this character a lot better, because then it's like you're basically just giving everybody AoEs. Right? You're literally just giving everybody AoEs by doing that. Imagine that with somebody like A2, right, who already is the AoE queen, all right? Same thing. Well, Scarlet already has the distributed damage, so it's kind of like that. Rocket launchers and generals, right? That would have made a lot of the characters, basically every character in the game, have an AoE effect when you're using the burst skill, and I feel like that would have been good, because I feel like the defense isn't that great, and of course her dealing the damage isn't that great. If they literally just said, for the allies who do not have distributed damage, they get additional distributed damage equal to, like, let's say 15% for 10 seconds, and then for that 10 seconds, anytime they attack, they just do additional damage that gets split between the damage he just did to all the enemies, would have been perfect, I feel like. So that's the only thing I would have changed. Probably would have changed this first skill to something different, and this attack buff as well, right? Because you're kind of always in a full burst, I feel like I don't dislike it that much, I want to say, but it is an attack buff of the caster's attack for 5 seconds, right? This is a supporter, right? Surprisingly though, her attack is quite good, right? It's more than, like, is it that good? No, probably not, right? I'm comparing it to like these characters. It's not that good actually. Right, and it's not a final attack, right? It maybe if it was a final attack, it would have been better, but it's of the caster's raw attack. So 8%, for example, of 46,000. It's a buff at the end of the day, but not that crazy of a buff. So they could have just made it 8%. That would have been good. But of a supporter's attack, I don't really like it that much. Have to go full screen there for the outro. But you guys let me know what you think down below, right? It's your boy Zxous. I really do like this Elegg character. I am going through the story right now. So there is that. But you guys let me know what you think. It's your boy Zxous. Make sure you guys subscribe and like, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out. Peace.